Good morning, students. In previous lecture, we have discussed about warfare for wealth, how the kings were fighting for wealth and also to control important area like Kannauj. For Kannauj, there were three kings who were fighting with each other: Gurjar Pratihar, Rashtrakoot and Pal dynasty were there. They fought with each other to control over Kannauj. Then many other kings or sultan from other part of the subcontinent, they attack on India to take wealth. They attacked on temples and they take away the huge wealth of the temples with them. And then many rulers were there in our country like Prithviraj Chauhan, who defeated Muhammad Ghori in 1191, but he lost the battle in 1192. We have discussed these all in previous lecture. Today we are going to discuss the next topic. It is a closer look, the Cholas. We are going to discuss about Chola dynasties, how it came into existence and how powerful they were. About them we are going to discuss now. Now we are going to discuss the topic from Urayur to Tanjore in South India. Uru means villages, and the place they have named Urayur to Tanjore. We are going to discuss here how the Cholas rise to power. Cholas were ruling in south, and there in west north area the ruler were Pallava. In the middle of the 9th century, Chola king attacked on Chalukyas, and Cholas were ruling in Urayur. They attacked on Tanjore and they defeated the Pallava king. He was Muttar Ayyar. He was defeated, and in this way the control of Chola was began to expand, and after controlling the Tanjore, the Vijayalaya, he constructed temple there in that area. He was worshipping goddess Durga, whose another name is Nisumbha Sudhini. He constructed the temple of Nisumbha Sudhini there, and after his rule, his successor conquered neighboring region and kingdom, and his kingdom became large in size and his power also became more. He defeated the Pandyan and the Pallava territories to the south and north were made part of this kingdom. Raj Raja first considered the most powerful Cholas ruler become king in 985, expanded control over most of these areas. He also reorganized the administration of the empire. Raj Raja's son Rajendra I continued his policies and even raided the Ganga Valley, Sri Lanka and countries of Southeast Asia, developing a navy for these expeditions. Here, after Vijayalaya, the next generation, the Raja first, and then again the next successor, they defeated many other rulers of this area, and from this area they came up to the Ganga Valley area. From here they reached to Ganga Valley area. These all area came they in their control, and also with the help of their navy forces, they had taken the area of Sri Lanka under them, and also in this neighboring country, in this area, they conquered more countries, and in this way they became more prosperous. The next topic, it is splendid temples and bronze sculpture. The big temples of Tanjavur and Gangaikonda Cholapuram, built by Raj Raja and Rajendra, are architectural and sculptural marvels. It was built by the Chola kings Raj Raja and the Rajendra, means they had done good work of construction. Chola temples often become the nuclei of settlements. Mostly people were living in temple area because at that time the people were more devoted to the temples. They come to temples, and from that area the Brahmanas were ruling. That is why temples were very important at that time. These were centers of craft production. Temples were also endowed with land by rulers as well as by others. The produce of this went to maintain all specialties who worked at the temple and very often lived near it. Priests, garland makers, means many people were there who were depending on temples. They were taking their livelihood from the temples. Many cooks were there, sweepers were there, musicians were there, and dancers were there who were depend on the temples. Temples were the center of culture. In other words, temples were not only place of worship. They were the hub of economic, social and cultural life as well. Means the temples were very, very important at that time. Now the next topic is agriculture and irrigation. Agriculture and irrigation. At that time, agriculture was very, very important, and everyone depend on agriculture. And without irrigation, how one can do agriculture? That is why both are important. Agriculture is depend on irrigation. For irrigate their area, they have made many canals. As this area belong to delta region means many streams were there of river Kaveri. Many of the achievements of Cholas were made possible through new developments in agriculture. Here Bay of Bengal was there beside that Kaveri Delta. These channels overflow frequently, depositing fertile soil. You know that deltas are made up of very fertile soil, alluvial soil, and people can grow rice in that area in much quantity. Water from the channels also provides the necessary moisture for agriculture, particularly the cultivation of rice. As I told you, rice is the important crop in coastal area, and also delta remain in coastal area. Now the next is the administration of the empire. Administration of empire. For doing proper administration, only one way was there of taking taxes from the peasants, traders, craftspersons. Look here. Here one question is arising: how was the administration organized? How they organized the administration? Settlements of peasants known as Ur. As I told you previously, Ur means it is village, and the area where peasants were living, farmers were living, that area was known as Ur, become prosperous with the spread of irrigation. Good irrigation facility was there in Kaveri Delta region. Crops such as village form larger unit called Nadu. Here Nadu means country. In South India, Nadu means country. It is the village council and the Nadu performed several administrative functions, including dispensing justice and collecting taxes. As there was a rule of king's monarchy was there, and the large areas were known as Nadu. In present time also, we know that Tamil Nadu is there. It is the country of Tamils. Karnataka, it is also known as Kannada Nadu. The people who are speaking Kannada, they live in that area. In Tamil Nadu, the people who speak Tamil, they are living in that area. And in this Nadu area, they were doing every work by taking taxes from the peasants, traders, craftspersons. Rich peasants of the Vellala caste exercised considerable control over the affairs of Nadu under the supervision of Central Chola government. Central Chola government, they can observe all over the Chola empire. The Chola king gave some rich landowners titles like it is Muven the Velan, then Arayar. In present time also peoples are there who keep this type of title with them as markers of respect and entrusted them with important offices of the state at the center. We have seen that Brahmanas often received land grant Brahmadeya. The grant given to the Brahmana, it is known as the Brahmadeya, and after giving this to the Brahmana, they write it on the prasastis that we have given this much land to the Brahmanas. It was known as Brahmadeya. Then each Brahmadeya was looked after by an assembly or sabha. There was a sabha, assembly of Brahmanas. It was known as a sabha. Prominent Brahmana landholders, these assemblies worked very efficiently. Their decisions were recorded in detail in inscriptions, often on the stone wall of temples. Anything which was given to the Brahmana, they write on stone. Association of traders known as Nagarams. There was association of traders which is known as Nagarams, also occasionally performed administrative functions in town. Inscriptions from Uttar Merur in Chingalput district, Tamil Nadu, provide detail of the way in which the Sabha was organized. About Sabha, we got the idea of this Sabha from the Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, some processes are there. In that, these all things are written. The Sabha had separate committees to look after irrigation works, gardens, temples. In this way, the Chola kingdom was working. Administration was going on. Now you will take the question answer also with this lecture.